we'll ask her to do the opening prayer. Well, we're going to get started, and we'll begin by having one of our elders do the opening prayer.
I want to greet you all in the name of Jesus. And it's so wonderful to attend a meeting like this. I've never been in one before, but anyway, I want to thank everybody for being here and my blessings upon each and every one of you. And what's going to be said here that will be the truth. And when everybody knows the truth, then the truth will set us free. And that everybody will agree to what's going to happen. And I thank you all. And I ask the Lord to bless each and every one. Oh Lord God, I pray in your wonderful name as we come to you in the name of Jesus, that you bless the food that we are going to eat, and that it'll be the strength and energy to each and everybody's body. And Lord, I pray that you bless all those that have nothing to eat, that things will go right. And I pray, Lord, for all that wanted to be here but couldn't make it. And I ask, Lord Jesus, that you let everybody have a safe journey home. All this I ask in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you.
Oh, there, okay. So I was just taking a look at the agenda here, and we have the opening prayer, which we did, opening remarks. But it was suggested that everybody can start having their lunch while the opening remarks are being done. That way we kind of catch up on our agenda. We were supposed to start at 6, and it's about 6:30 now. So how are we going to... All right, so all the elders can go and line up first and begin getting some food. And for those who, I guess, can't get up, maybe somebody help them out and grab them a plate of food. And then everybody else, just help yourselves. And so elders first, go ahead. So I guess while everybody is up and grabbing their food, I just want to welcome everybody to the meeting, and it's so good to see so many band members show up. We have a couple things that we're going to present today, and the first one is the First Nations Election Act. And we're going to have Howard present. We had originally had somebody from Minac, but I guess they couldn't make it, so Howard is our electoral officer, and he'll be presenting on that. And like I said, feel free to get up and get some food, get in line while I'm speaking. It wouldn't be a problem. So anyways, I just want to say welcome to all the George Gordon band members and to everyone else. And we have these few presentations. The first one is the Election Act, and I want to say that this legislation was developed with the input and recommendations of the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs and the Atlantic Congress of First Nation Chiefs. And they recognize the advantages of elected officials having a longer term of office. It even affects the ability to negotiate when you have such a term, because usually the other side knows that you have such a small window of opportunity to come to an agreement, and I've witnessed personally. And I guess what I'm talking about here is I'm giving the reasons why that we chose as a band to go into the 4-year term this new election. So, reasons are is the longer term in office, a 4-year term creates political stability necessary for long-term planning and relationship building with partners and investors. There's also a lot less turmoil in the community because of the elections. When there's elections every 2 years, there's a good solid year of getting work done. The second year, it's about a half a year of good, and then the elections start in the community, and then it's just the 2-year term is too short. And I think with the 4-year term, it'll allow people to, I guess, be more effective, and for our community to not have to get into that the election mode where one family is kind of voting for their side and the other family voting for their side. So the 4-year term is going to help with that. Ever since I've been around elections too, there's always been a suspicion around the mail-out ballots and question about their security, and also for voters not being able to have the time to travel out to the community and then having to spend their gas and resources to get out to the community and vote. So these advanced polls under this First Nation Election Act are going to allow us to solve many of those concerns. Members can vote in person and be sure that no one is abusing the old mail-out ballots that caused a lot of insecurity and also often raised a lot of questions. And another advantage to this is the improved process of real penalties because of the election laws. For those who might, I don't know how to put it in a good way, but participate in corrupt or fraudulent activities. Because we've all heard of vote buying or offering bribes. People suddenly start giving out money or buying things for voters in exchange for voter support. All those things that influence people to vote for you other than their genuine desire to elect you to office. And then the appeals also will be decided by the courts. Those who wish to bring forward allegations better be sure about what they're bringing forward, because there's a potential they will end up in court for the things that they're saying. For one, there won't be all these appeals on things really aren't valid, and a lot of it really is just slander anyway. And I guess one thing I just want to clear up, I've had a lot of questions about people asking me if we spent $10 million in my trailer. And $10 million is a lot of money to spend, and I just want to clear that up, that no, we haven't spent $10 million. And if we had done that, of course, it'd be in the paper and everything like that. We'd definitely be in third party, because that was like 90% of our budget at the band office. So I just wanted to clear up that one rumor that's kind of being spread out there also. The reality is the audits are all online and everything. If anything like that was happening, there'd be a lot of people involved. So anyways, I'll just allow people to go ahead and enjoy their food, and we'll get on with the agenda after everybody has finished eating, right? So once again, just thank everybody for coming out. Thanks.
Attention, ladies and gentlemen, I'm just going to make a quick announcement here. We wanted to thank BHP Billiton, the Community Development Fund, for sponsoring this year's hampers. They provided $5,000 for on-reserve hampers to each home, and $5,000 in gift cards to off-reserve seniors. So this was announced at the Christmas dinner in December, that any individual who is from the George Gordon First Nation who's here over the age of 55 can go to the back and see Kat or Melody to register to receive their gift card. So that's just an announcement we wanted to make. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to tonight's informational meeting for the George Gordon First Nation. We're going to commence the agenda. It is now 7 p.m. Before I begin, I just wanted to refer everyone to the back of the room where Kathy is. We are doing the community impact assessment for the Energy East project as a part of our engagement. And one of the things that we're doing is a community survey of individuals. It asks, I think there's 11 questions there that it asks pertaining to the Energy East project. So if you fill out the survey, you have the opportunity tonight to win one of two cell phones. They're the Galaxy Samsung Tab 4s. We will be drawing for two of those tonight, and tomorrow we'll be doing one of those and a $150 gift certificate in Saskatoon at the Saskatoon Information Meeting. So without further ado, I want to invite up Mr. Howard McMaster. He is the electoral officer from Saskatoon who was successful in the recent bid to host and as electoral officer the 2016 George Gordon First Nation election. He's going to do his presentation about the upcoming election under the First Nations Election Act.
Thank you, Solomon. For those who may speak Cree, but I will do most of my presentation in English. Greetings to the elders, chief and council, very interested officer band members of your First Nation. This is a wonderful opportunity to always to visit, but also to find out the latest about what your First Nation is doing. Mine is a very small part, but probably a very important part, and Chief Longman has done a very good job in terms of the reasons why the First Nation went into it. So that's in the past. They're into it now. And they've been designated as one of the First Nations to go into the new process, the new Election Act. my role is basically to carry out the election according to the Act and the regulations. So fairly detailed process. They're all tied to time frames. And just very quickly say, for instance, 65 days before the election, the First Nation had to choose an electoral officer, which they did, give or take a day or two. And on the 30th day, I had to go and post the election, the nomination notice, which I did, and also the voters list. That was posted out at the First Nation a little over a week ago. But perhaps the biggest change will be in the off-reserve mail-in ballot process. And there have been instances where there have been, I guess, vote buying, but this is just perhaps one way of tightening up the process a bit. In order for a person who lives off reserve, first of all, the First Nation is supposed to give me all the addresses of off reserve band members. And that's supposed to have occurred last week. I did get 2 preliminary lists from Melody, and thank you very much, Melody. The first list, I could make sense out of about 125 names in terms of the name and the address at that time. I don't know how old that list was. But I also double-checked, of course, I have the voters list with the numbers, with your registration number, treaty number. So I double-checked that before I sent it out. There have been instances where names were on the list where the person was not on the voters list, so I didn't send them out. So that's where that is. As of today, I think I'm up to about 127. Now, the really important part, and once I get the address, then I send out a 4-page nomination notice. The first page is a notice, and it's 5A. That's the designation. 5A is a notice of the nomination meeting. 5B and 5C is if you're going to nominate, if you're an off-reserve band member and you want to nominate somebody, you will fill out forms 5B and 5C and send those in to me. But if you're not going to nominate anybody, so don't worry about form 5B and 5C. But the real important one is 5D. That's the one where you request a mail-in ballot. And you have to put your name, your address, and I'll just highlight and look at the form here briefly. Basically, it reads I, and then name of elector, band number. I'm a qualified elector of the First Nation and do hereby request that a mail-in ballot be sent to me at, and then there's spots there for you to fill out your address, your telephone number, and your email. Excuse me. Along with this form, you have to include a copy of proof of identity, one piece of ID. And they list 3 solid ones, and then 4 is potentially another document. The first one is your status card. That's the most important one. If you have that, you would include that with this form and send that back to me. The second one is a driver's license. The third one is your health card. And the fourth one is another document that proves your identity. And that is just to prove that you are who you are and that I should send you a ballot package. So this Form 5D is the most important one for off-reserve band members to get back to me. So as I indicated, this has gone out to 127 people. However, one of the things as a result of tonight, that there's an advantage that you have here, Chief mentioned that there are going to be advance polls. So the advance poll for here is March 23rd at your urban office, 2704 10th Avenue. At the same hours, 9 in the morning till 8 at night. The first one, advance poll, is in Saskatoon on that Monday, the 21st of March. Same thing, 9 in the morning till 8 at night at the Ramada Hotel. Pioneer Room, I believe it is, on the second floor. So there's two opportunities for those people living in and around Regina or in and around Saskatoon to actually show up and vote. So here's one thing. You know about it tonight. You can pass the word on. Now, you may not get this 4-page package because I've only sent it, as I indicated, to 127 people. Those addresses, but again, those addresses may be older and those people may not live there anymore. So that's another part of that. But I wouldn't be alarmed. That's not a last kick at the cat. You still have the urban advance poll. So in a sense, if I don't get your address, or if you don't give your address to Melody, we don't know where you live in Regina or around Saskatoon. But as long as you know there's going to be advance poll, really, if your name doesn't enter my system, you won't get this letter. But at least you're still going to have the opportunity to vote there. Now, here's another little wrinkle that the Chief and Council put before me the other day. What if an officer band member gets this 4-page package and they say, oh boy, on that day, yeah, I could have voted in Regina, but I want to go out and visit at the reserve. So they'll come out and vote in person. Now, here's a little wrinkle. There used to be a form that could be filled out right on the spot on election day if you lost your ballot, if you misplaced it, or if you didn't use it. That form is no longer there. What you have to do instead is you have to bring an affidavit signed by a Commissioner of Oath saying you didn't use your ballot or you lost it. So it gets a little bit more complicated, and it might even cost a few dollars. So the back part of that is if you still want to come to vote on the reserve and you have received this, just bring the form back. And we'll document that you brought it back, and we'll just give you another ballot on site at the reserve. So that's an easy way out. The thing is, if you were sent one of these and you want to vote at the reserve, just bring this package back on election day. So that's an easy way out, actually. That's the immediate part. Is the first mail out is called a nomination and request for ballot mail out. Okay, that's just to notice that there's going to be a nomination meeting. After the nomination on February 25th, there's going to be a second mail out called a ballot package mail out. And if you filled out this form 5D, and I now have your address, I've checked off that you submitted ID, I can send you a ballot package. And in that ballot package, of course, will be the list of candidates. Okay, that's what. First one is just about a notice about the nomination meeting. The same form, this 5D, is I can collect that, I can continue sending out this form 5D until 6 days before the election, March 25th. So there's lots of time to get the form if you're an off-reserve band member and you want to vote by mail-in ballot. You have until March 25th to send me that form. Now here's one thing that makes it easier this time around. You can email it to me. and I can email you this package. So what's happening now is I'm starting to send a lot more emails with this, and they get it within a minute. And if you're really good at computers, you print out this form, you got your status card, you could even put your status card right on top here, over top of this, because you already read this, your information here, and you scan it and you email it back to me. This whole thing today from somebody from Red Pheasant, I got one back in 20 minutes. And one of your officer members, Kurt Blind, sent me one yesterday. I sent him the package. He sent me back his completed form, picture of his status card and treaty number on the front. He's done. So it can be quite quick, instead of waiting for the mail. And when you depend on the mail, I have to allow that 6 days for it to get to you. Maybe if you're lucky, you'll get it in 3, and in 3 days, if you post it back, I'll get it. But chances are, if you wait till that last March 25th, if I send it out then, and you get it 2 or 3 days later, if you mail it, I probably won't get it. So somehow, maybe you're going to have to give it to somebody who's going to drive to the reserve to go and vote anyway, and they can take it with you. They can take it with them. So that's sort of the ins and outs of this mail-out package. So I think if you're aware, and if you know a lot of your other fellow band members, that there's going to be an advance poll, I guess there's 2 ways to look at it. There's really no need to go and see Melody, but in a sense, if Melody gets the address and forwards it to me, or if individual band members email me, because the word is getting out, they're getting my email, then that's fine. Can you send me a package? I will. I'm obligated by the new regulations. If I do get a name, a person off reserve and their address, I have to send it out. So there's some things, it just depends how you want to go about it. But this is an advantage, a new thing about the advance polls. Yes?
So regarding a person on a phone or a computer, can the urban services, the rules offer the computer service for a member? I think for doing email stuff?
Well, here's one thing that I can check that out. What I have done in a somewhat similar situation is I've received an email from a mother who has 2 daughters. And she asked, can you send me a package through my email? Because my daughters don't have email, or my mother doesn't have an email. I've gone ahead, because to me, I want to be flexible. For those that want to vote, I think I should be creative and flexible and find a way to allow them to vote. So I sent to that same email as the mother 2 packages for her daughter and 1 for her mother. Now, on this form, they have to fill out their address anyway. So if they fill it out, I'm going to get that person's home address later. As long as this form gets filled out, I'm going to get their address. So I catch up to them. I catch up on the data. I catch up on the home address. So perhaps just for sending out, I'm not sure. Let me check that out. So if I understand your question, can your one office send on behalf of other people? Yeah, okay. Okay, that's a good question. Yeah, I'll check on that.
Howard, I have a question.
Yes.
Somebody asked me if people from the reserve can come into the advance poll.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, it's possible that some people were not going to be around on election day, and again, I went through the regulations, one of my other staff who has been doing elections for 25 years, and we talked about this, and she said, there are sometimes, because she's done ratification votes for claims, and if they have an off-reserve vote and an urban vote, some of the on-reserve people come and vote in town, and it happened to be in town, and they're on the list, why not? I guess that's my position. Yes, yes. They can't. Okay, here's. No, let me just back up a little. When I send out the ballot package, there is what is known as a declaration form that you are who you are. And I give that one person a tracking number on the bottom. It's computer driven. I give that person a number. So I can tell on my record keeping the number I assign to that person, okay? And that form escapes and somebody else uses it. I'll check the number when I get it back, and I know the name of the person I assigned that number to, and if there's a different name that comes back on top, somebody's got a hold of a form they weren't supposed to, so I won't count that. So it's a tracking number that I assign to each off-reserve package that I send out. Yes?
Would we breach any part of the regulations if we had somebody, a commissioner of both on site on voting day? Like just assist members who can't afford to pay for
A very good point. I went through that the other day when you weren't there, council meeting. No. You notice I was shaking when she asked the question. She came and introduced herself tonight. I'm Tara Lynn. Oh, okay, I talked to you. He said, when she called me, she said, Howard? I said, yep. We looked at your proposal. We've got an offer you can't refuse. So I said, okay, I'm listening. She said, our offer is, and it was less than what I had submitted, but you can't refuse it. So yeah, she's a tough negotiator. Back to your question about Commissioner Vos on site. I have also checked that out, and there are two options. I was trying to be flexible and not turn away people. In the event, at the last minute, well, I didn't know we had to have an affidavit signed by Commissioner Vos. So I told the First Nation Chief and Council, I said, I am currently checking out. If one of my staff has Commissioner Vos, would he or she be able to sign it? I did get a response. And it said, yes, if indeed that person is Commissioner Vos. But it takes away the intent of the person at the last minute. And I suppose to keep our independence as the people running your election, I would prefer if the First Nation has their own Commissioner Vos to be ready and available to sign a form. So if that's an option that the First Nation could entertain, that would really, I believe, help me in making it run properly, because part of it is there may be some familiarity with the person bringing the ballot package or the reasons why. So so there's a couple options there. Yes, I guess in answer to your question, yes, yeah.
Howard, I think you want to try not to intimidate anybody from not voting.
That's right.
I talked to the engineers, and they said even if you have a hotline, they can some people don't have.
Yeah, yeah.
Even a hotline
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, and that's what it sells your health card. Yeah, yeah. And as far as this 5D, this request for ballot, there's a lot of. This is only to verify that the person is who they are, and if we find them, him or her on the banned list, then yeah, we're going to be flexible and let them get a package. And as far as on election day, registering to vote, if we find you, if you're on the voters list, no problem. Yeah.
Howard?
Yes?
Maybe you can clarify, what other things, you mentioned any other things that ID that tells you who they are, and what are some of the other ones?
It's possibly, yes. I think we're going to be, I've got a list that I sent in to headquarters. They looked at it and they said, well, it's not quite that, doesn't exactly the same as what we're thinking. But to me, it's really just to prove that the band number, the registration number, the treaty number, and that person, and if the library card has the same exact spelling, and if there's a middle name, if there's a birth date, yeah, that, as far as I'm concerned, that's okay. Yes? Well, to show up to vote, as long as they can identify who they are and we find them on the banned list, on the voters list, no problem. Yeah. It's basically just to get the mail-in ballot. Yeah. But to show up on reserve, if you... Well, I think most of us, this same question came up at Red Pheasant. There are some homeless people. And they may not have a permanent address. But I think in most instances, they're going to have a hospitalization card, regardless of where they go. They're gonna get treatment. So I think we're going to be as lenient as we can, and these are the things I'm checking with headquarters. As soon as I get questions like this, and I will check that out tomorrow. A couple of questions here.
Well, Howard Darrell said, first, no ID involved, as long as you have the melody inside you.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the one thing I'm hopeful, and I think I talked to Melody that she's going to be available for Saskatoon and Regina Urban Poll, and as well as out at the First Nation. So, when in doubt, the person at the First Nation is usually the person we're going to depend on. I'm actually looking forward to this. It's a new process, and I think you're on the front end of some things that a couple of the questions I asked, I submitted to headquarters, and they said, good question. We're going to have to check this out a little bit more. And so it forced them to look at a couple of things. So there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't have much more. I will introduce Verna Kashane. Verna will be helping us out. I as well have six people in North Battleford, one in Saskatoon, one in 5. So I have a pretty good sized staff, and they're one of the things that we do, and I don't know how it's been done in the past, but on the night of the count, I have 5 up to 6 people who know how to read the ballots. And so we'll have at least 4, if not 5 or 6 counting tables. So that's going to cut down the time, shorten the time. And the other thing and I don't know how your previous electoral officer did this, but on nomination day, I use one of these, and as people get nominated, it shows up there. I don't use flip charts anymore. I never used flip charts. I started using this. So right up there, you can see 25 names up on the wall. Candidate, nominator, seconder, all in one line. And if we run out of space and you get more than 25, we've got a printer that'll print out the first 25, and they'll get handed out so people will know who the first 25 are, and then we just continue our list. And the same thing on election night for the display of results, we use an overhead projector. So everybody, let's say it's 5 counting tables, they'll all have 5 different totals. And I put them all together in the computer, and I display the final results on there. That's pretty well it. As far as trying to highlight, yes?
For anyone that is running or else, are you allowed to use the ballot?
Yes. You can bring somebody else's ballot package, but you have to stay and fill out a form saying you vote and you know that person. So if you bring in 50, be prepared to stay there to fill out 50 forms. There's one other thing that just slipped my mind that it'll come back. I guess overall, I appreciate the opportunity to come and present. Yes. Yes.
Who's looking after the registration, the $250?
Oh, good point. That's exactly the point I was looking at. Yes, that is the other new thing on this First Nations Election Act. The council decides that if there's somebody who's going to run, there is a $250 candidate's fee for the chief and $250 for a councillor candidate. That is given to me. I will issue receipts as soon as you give me only one of 4 ways: cash, certified check, money order, or electronic transfer. No personal checks, no third-party checks, no debit. I don't have a debit machine. And I will issue a receipt on the spot. The other little wrinkle about this, I indicated we might have, let's say, 50 candidates up there, okay? Once the nomination is over, 50 candidates. That's all fine and dandy. But the candidates must now fill out a 1-page form saying they accept, and with that form, your money. By the 3rd day, in other words, February 28th at 6 p.m. 6 p.m. If I get something at 6:01, your name doesn't go on. Pardon me? So the candidate's fee, probably the best way to avoid this is if you have your candidate's fee on nomination day, I'll be there to collect the money. It'll be deposited in trust. And as far as the candidates are concerned, if you get more than 5% of the total vote, you get your money back. If you get less than 5%, it goes to the First Nation. So that's the candidate's fee and how that operates. So it's tightened it up a bit more. Thank you for mentioning that. That's a good point. I was looking at it and I was just thinking that there's one more thing. Yes.
So it's here, the Human Council didn't decide that $250 the membership decided that in the AGM.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, it's just that the chief and council has to submit a BCR on the intention from the band. Yeah.
So when it comes to election day, March 31st, there's all these rules about mingling and eating and hanging out with the gym. So the same thing has to apply on the bad voting, right? The rules?
Yeah. The rules are fairly clear, and I have the authority, and I have it arranged. The registration desk, you get the ballot, and we'll have 5, 6, or 7 voting compartments. And I have 2 people that go and get the ballot. After the person marks their ballot, they put them in the right box, and then that person's got to go out. No mingling in the hall. They're out. I mean, I don't want to be rude, but they can't mingle in the hall. Yeah. And the same thing, just for warning. The regulations and the guidelines do say that there should not be any appearance of influencing electors outside the hall in the parking lot. That's pretty clear in our guidelines. I can ask for those people to leave, and they can refuse to leave, but I can call the police. So I know that occurs, and I've had to ask people to move their booths, even if they're giving away free steaks, free hamburgers. My rule is I'm in charge of this voting area and the immediate parking lot. So I'll go out and check the parking lot. If everything's hunky-dory, I won't do anything. But if there appears to be a gathering of people and whatnot, then I might come and ask people to find out what's going on. Yes?
For the elderly and the disabled, what's the rule on that to assist in the voting?
No problem. We've got Cree speakers. Yeah. Secondly, there's one thing I do. Depending on how long your lineups are, if I see an elderly person coming through and they have to register to vote, and we have a long lineup of people who are waiting because there's 2 kinds of lineups. There's people that register, and after you register, you go into, you now have your, you've registered to vote, and you have to pick up your ballot, and then you go to the voting compartment. Sometimes there's lineups there. What I do is elderly people, I will pick them out, and our staff are pretty good at spotting them. We'll take them to the front of the line. We'll get them registered right away. We'll take them through the waiting line to get their ballot. They'll get their ballots, and we'll take them to a voting compartment right away. The other ones we do that for is sometimes there are some young mothers with a couple of children, a couple of preschool-age children, and you don't want them to be in line for a long time, so we get them, same thing, we bring them to the front. And the other group that we do it for is people who have had one too many. Because we've had that situation where they're creating a ruckus in the line, either line, and fights just about occur. So we get them in and out the door. So those are a few things that I just want to make it run a little smoother. Oh, okay, yeah. Specifically on that, perhaps myself and one of my senior officers would assist them in the ballot, in the voting compartment, okay? And we assist them in a couple of ways. If they're blind, we'll probably take them to a voting compartment that's kind of isolated and read the names, and we'll ask them to shake their head up or down or no. And that's one way. Or if we're disabled, we'll actually, if they can't grasp a pen, we'll ask them who they want and we'll mark it for them. And here's the thing. There can be a witness, like a family member, saying that person was assisted. Okay? Okay, I guess my 800 number is on there if you want specific questions. Yes?
One last one, thank you, but the scrutineer portion.
Yes, scrutineer portion, every candidate that ends up on that list can have 2 scrutineers, okay? And I have a little letter of agreement with the scrutineers. They're simply to observe. They cannot interfere in the operation of the election. That's our job. They just observe. They'll have special tables set up for them. And during the count, up till now, in most instances, I have my team who will read the ballot, and the scrutineers we usually use as scorekeepers. We have tally sheets, so they'll tally. Like, for every table, there might be 2, 3, or 4 scrutineers, okay? So they'll just take turns. And that just to make sure that everybody's properly, keeping in the proper score. Yes?
Just one last point, one of the biggest problems in all the elections that I've been involved in is trying to get a hold of the electoral officer. Even not even by phone or whatever, and they get so frustrated, they phone us and say, well, I can never get a hold of this person. That happens numerous times, has to verify who has the direct contact, not this issue of council, you and the legislature.
No, I can get direct calls. So that's why my 800 number is on the notices. Pardon?
I think he's asking from a candidate. From a candidate?
Okay, let me hear your question again.
It's just membership of part, right? You try to get a hold of, I want to mail, I can't get a hold of you.
Yeah. Okay. I've got 3 ways. If they have read this poster, this notice of nomination, if you live in Saskatoon, you can phone locally, and I have a message manager at the Saskatoon number. There's an 800 number that doesn't cost anybody, in the States even, to call me, and they leave a message, and I have voicemail to text. So it's on the computer. When I open my computer, it'll say you got 4 telephone calls. So I click on it, and I print their message. And if their telephone number is on there, I'll call them back, or whatever their question is. And of course, email and fax. 2 telephone numbers, a fax, and an email to get a hold of me. And I appreciate getting the emails because it's documented. if it's a clarification on the act and the regulations, yeah, no problem. Yeah. Yeah. And probably just one last point, because you just raised one thing here. If candidates want to get names and addresses from me, sorry, I can't give it to you. And neither can Melody. But in the bottom of this form for officer band members, it says, if you want your name and address to be given to a candidate at this election for the purpose of communicating with you, please check the statement below. Print and sign your name, detach this form and dotted line, and return the bottom portion to the electoral officer. So this form has a little scissors. That means if this officer of elector doesn't mind a candidate getting a hold of them, this little form gives me the authority for me to give that candidate this. Any other questions? I think that took a little bit longer than I needed to, but I think they're very good questions. So that's. Pardon? Oh, right. Yeah. The ID identification that you send is just a copy, not the original. Yeah, just a copy. Just one last point. I brought about 10 copies of this 4-page package that I send to officers or band members. If you want one, I'll probably leave some at the front here, whatever is here, but I'll leave it there. If you want more copies, you can get some from Melody.
Okay, thank you, Howard, for your presentation. Now we know about the First Nations Election Act and how it will how it will affect our election going, which is on March 31st, 2016. I'm going to now introduce you to a George Gordon First Nation band member. She's also an attorney, which means she's a lawyer, and her name is Leah Bitternose. She's the daughter of the late Ivan McNabb and Lavina Bitternose. Leah is a member of the First Nation Land Advisory Board, and that is a part of the Resource Center. She provides technical support through the Resource Center to First Nations, the FSIN, within this prairie region. She's going to be providing a presentation on the First Nations Land Management Act. And the First Nations Land Management Act is a progressive, positive step forward as it provides certainty for First Nations that opt in. She's going to present to us the process of opting into the First Nations Land Management Act. Fanalma.
Yes, that's right. Thank you, Solomon, and thank you everyone for coming out. There's a great turnout tonight, and thank you all of you for tuning in online, wherever you are, at home or your office. So I've got a PowerPoint presentation, and it may take me about 10 minutes. I'm going to try to shorten it down because I know we've got a lot of interesting things here today. So I'm going to just go through it. I'm just providing some history and just that type of thing. And I just want to point out my brother Joe here. Joe, raise your hand. Joe is raising some money actually tonight for his, or all along, for his sons who are going on a trip. So he has some squares for sale, and I invite you all to support the youth. So where's Solomon? Maybe I'll get you to be my hands. Okay, just I can hold on to that. Okay, and then what I'm going to tell you next. So just some background, and we've been into this First Nations land management for, going on 4 years, and it's typically a 2-year process, but we're really taking a good look at it. So we're into our 4th year of looking at it. So I'm just going to just give you the broadest strokes on the history of First Nations land management, and then at the end I'm going to tell you what you're going to be voting on, but it won't be till like December type of thing. Okay, next one. So how the First Nations land management came to be was as a result of chiefs in Canada. A group of chiefs had actually looked for a better way than the Indian Act, and then entered into this government-to-government arrangement. So it was back in 1996 that 14 First Nations chiefs entered into this arrangement. Next one. This is the signing ceremony, and it was in Skagug Island. And so 3 of the First Nations there, Chippewas, Mississauga, Skagug, and Muscadet, began to govern their own lands and resources. So some of the principles of the framework agreement is, of course, on and off reserve First Nations members. There's also, what's happening is that we're removing ourselves from the Indian Act, so the 25 sections. Okay, so it doesn't affect our treaty rights or anything like that. And if we just keep on going, we still have the protection that we've always had. Third-party interests are still protected. Just keep on going. We have local dispute resolution still. And then we'll just keep on going. These are the First Nations that are under the framework agreement right now. And we'll see in Saskatchewan, there's all of STC, there's many First Nations. Just keep pressing. So there's actually 2 studies done. You'll have to excuse me, my throat is just dry. 2 studies done. The first one in 2009, and just basically talks about the opportunities under First Nations land management. And then if we keep going. And then the next one. The next one. Sorry, and then the second study also talked about how First Nation is faster, how land management is faster, strengthens our visions and our legal interests. And if we just keep on going. So there's 3 First Nations that we'll look at today. One is called Sooke, the other is called Whitecap. We all know about Whitecap, and the other is Westbank. So Sooke First Nation is in BC. It's actually in the lower mainland of BC. It's actually the most solar intensive First Nation across Canada. They attract tourists from all around the globe, including universities, governments, museums that go and see them. They're active in aquaculture, forestry, farming, that type of thing. So they have, sorry, just go back. They have many businesses. They're involved in with business partnerships with Best Western and Pacific Coast Wasabi. They're also focused on energy self-sufficiency, economic self-sufficiency, food self-sufficiency, and cultural and language revitalization. Whitecap, we all know where Whitecap is. It's just south of Saskatoon. And Whitecap, through accountable and transparent government and land tenure, they've attracted over 100 million in capital investment, created over 700 jobs, generated over 90 million in annual revenue, and attracted over 1.4 million tourists annually. So we know they have the world famous golf links. They have Dakota Technologies, Whitecap Commercial Real Estate, and the Tatanka Ranch. It's a bison ranch. West Bank. West Bank has a gross domestic product which has increased from 100 million to 500 million annually in the past decade. In 2011, they had 80 million in annual fiscal revenue that provided to Canada from their fertile land. And they were ranked 61 out of 162 BC municipalities as the largest, having the largest property value. So West Bank has consistently outpaced all other municipalities in BC. So just talking about the framework agreement and what benefits it could provide to us as Gordons, it's not just for economic development, it's also for governance and for us regaining control, regaining management of our lands. It also helps us in speaking with our membership, and although I'm just about cracking up here speaking with you guys right now, this is probably about the 10th time that I've presented on the First Nations land management, but this is the first time without my neck problem. So some of the statistics is that 1 in 5 First Nations across Canada want to enter the framework agreement. There's hundreds of millions of dollars in investment that is brought through to the First Nations from opening up land management and not having the Indian Act being our impediment. So this is accomplished without a lot of risk. Actually, it's through the success and the integrity of our land management and practicing our own management. And it's proven that partnerships with financial institutions or investors or third parties are also have been improved. And so it's essentially about regaining control of our land. So we know that through the Indian Act, that right was taken away from us. We actually, there's 35 sections in the Indian Act that control First Nation land. And what this process is doing is basically taking us out of that, where we're moving ourselves from those sections of the Indian Act and going to create our own land law. So the next slide. So later this year, you're going to be asked to vote on both the land code and the individual agreement. And so I know there was a lot of talk just now with Howard on voting. And so you're going to hear more of this discussion as we move on this year. And essentially what you're going to be asked to vote on is two items, a land code and an individual agreement. And the land code is essentially, it's going to be a central law where all of our other ancillary laws will fall under it. The individual agreement is actually the transfer of administration and finances from the federal government to Gordon's First Nation. So we've actually been in this process for quite a long time. When Glenn was chief, we started it. Our current chief signed the actual document. And it's not finalized until you, the membership, vote on it. So we're going to be asking, I said I've been speaking about this actually for years. I've been out to the urban meetings, been to the Gordon meetings many, many times. So you guys have heard this over and over again. And so I've talked about the contents of the land code, contents of the individual agreement, and all of the information about how we opted in and what's going to happen once we become a signatory to this. And so I invite you to, I'm going to have this on the website, so if you want to take another look at it without having to look at me, please do. And I thank you very much for inviting me and having me out here and excuse my my thyroid acting up. So, thank you. Okay, sorry about that. I guess I should have said if there's any questions, I'm open to taking them. Donna? Yep. Yeah, in order for us to roll land over into the framework agreement and to come under our own law, which is the land code, the land has to be reserve land. So it has to be not designated, but it has to be reserve land. So TLE land, if it's reserve land, it can be part of the code. But some land, as we know in the discussion of TLE, some land we don't want to turn over to reserve land. We want to keep it fee simple land for various reasons. So, so that's a good question. Thank you. Any other questions? I hope it was clear as mud. So you're going to be here from us again, because we're going to be asking you to vote, and you need to know what you're voting on, you know. And so just like the Election Act, it's new information. Although we've been at it for 4 years, it's also important information to learn. So any chance that I have to come out to talk about it, I'm happy to be here. And proud of Gordon's. We have so many things on the horizon that's amazing. We're talking about our own Election Act, and then some of the partnerships that we're having today. So thank you for listening, everybody. I love you all.
Thank you very much, Leah. So moving along with the agenda to tonight, we are going to swiftly move into item E, which is the community impact assessment being conducted by the George Gordon First Nation regarding the Energy East pipeline. We do have representatives from TransCanada who are here this evening. These individuals will be sitting on a panel later on, a few minutes down the road. They're going to be addressing some issues and some of the concerns that we have presented in some of the findings, some of the preliminary findings that we have come across in the community impact assessment. I just wanted to take this time right now to introduce those individuals from TransCanada Pipelines for Energy East Pipelines Limited, and thank them for coming all this way to be a part of our informational meeting. And the first individual that I want to introduce you to is Todd Frankel, and he is the head of the Aboriginal Relations Division of Energy East, or TransCanada Pipelines. We also have Jason McFarlane. He is environmental planner with TransCanada. David Neely is conversion project lead. We have Daniel Churchill, who is also with Aboriginal Relations. And we have Mr. Keon Francis Flamont, who's with procurement. Some of you may have received this agenda, which is an agenda specific to this segment of the presentation. And this has been formulated because it's officially a part of the community impact assessment. We're doing this tonight in order to extract information from you concerning the Energy East Pipeline project. And so I will begin the presentation. So welcome to the town hall. We're calling this portion a town hall. The purpose of the town hall is to engage the members of the George Gordon First Nation regarding the Energy East project. My name, as you know, is Solomon Sear, and as the GGDL officer in charge of engagement on this file, I'll be helping to facilitate the discussions this evening. The Community Town Hall is one of many activities that we have been conducting under the Community Impact Assessment regarding the Energy East project. Over the past year, we have been out in the community engaging with members. We've held information meetings and intimate roundtables, both in the city and on the reserve, in order to get an official sense or sentiment out there regarding this particular pipeline project. Now, as we move forward, environmental stewardship has been fundamental in our messaging and engagement with both Energy East and also with the National Energy Board. We want everyone to know that our First Nation is very much concerned with protecting Mother Earth. We care about the environment and how projects like Energy East will affect it, how it will affect our people, our community, and our lands. So we've moved forward with this attitude, but also understanding the dynamic balance between resource development and environmental stewardship. So in order to enhance this aspect of what we're doing with respect to this project, and in order to enhance the advocacy of our First Nation in this whole process, we applied to the National Energy Board for intervener status, and successfully we did receive intervener status. And to receive intervener status means that the National Energy Board basically, for the government of Canada, has to listen to First Nation, our First Nations concerns. So we successfully received that status in the summer of 2015. So now I'll just explain just a little bit to you about the genesis and the evolution of Energy East to this point. In March 2013, TransCanada formalized plans to launch the Energy East project. They filed a project description with the National Energy Board, and it is now anticipated that this project will be completed by 2020. Under the project, TransCanada plans to convert an existing natural gas flowing pipeline to a crude oil pipeline, flowing pipeline, with the goal of moving crude oil to the eastern coast. This project is considered one of Canada's biggest infrastructure projects of all time. Now costing over $15 billion and planned to take some 5 years to complete. The pipeline will affect some 4,600 kilometers of land. There will be approximately 610 kilometers of pipeline conversion taking place within Saskatchewan. And I've been told there's about 3 kilometers that are actually going to be new pipeline. That's near the Alberta border. So the proposed Energy East project will traverse the traditional territory of George Gordon First Nation, including directly traversing the TLE lands that we have located near the rural municipality of Whitewood, Saskatchewan. So let me take this time to give you a background on how we became engaged. It has been stated numerous times before that the First Nation will engage any open process that gives us the opportunity to have input when it comes to our lands, the environment, our people, and our community. On February 12, 2014, the George Gordon First Nation entered into a Memorandum of Understanding with Energy East Pipelines Limited. And the purpose of this MOU was to establish an engagement process to identify any such adverse impacts the project may have on the traditional territory and people of the George Gordon First Nation. And under our traditional land use study, we have identified that our traditional territory is the southern Treaty 4 territory. That has been identified as our traditional territory. Through the MOU, we created a framework to enable meaningful and productive dialogue between our First Nation and TransCanada, or Energy East Pipelines Limited. So the MOU came with a list of agreed upon activities that were to be carried out. And those included a business opportunities forum, which we held, community information meetings, which we've held, a traditional land use study, and now a community impact assessment. So at this point, we are collecting data and information from you, the members of the George Gordon First Nation, to finalize our community impact assessment on this project. The information obtained in this community impact assessment will be compiled into a report and will be forwarded to TransCanada Pipelines and the National Energy Board. So this report will be based on what you have to say about the project. It will include the opinions of both young and old and everyone in between. Some of you may be deeply concerned about these types of projects and the footprint they may leave. Some of you may be supportive and considering the opportunities when it comes to employment and business. So we're here to listen. At this time, I wanted to introduce you now to our associate in this environmental field. His name is Dr. Scott Barnes. I know that some of you have met him in the past at some of our other functions. Dr. Scott Barnes is a PhD specialist in limnology, and he's been working with us on this file. He has helped to guide us successfully through the National Energy Board process, and he will be helping us to complete our community impact assessment. And I also wanted to just state that the MOU is a 2-year MOU with Energy East, which expires on February 12th, 2016. So we're coming to the end of the life of this MOU, but of course it's not the end of the relationship that we have with the proponent. So as per this segment's agenda, I wanted to invite Dr. Scott Barnes up here to provide his overview and his presentation of the Energy East project's application to the National Energy Board. And ladies and gentlemen, I just need to state that this is a big application. It has been more than 20,000 pages. So Dr. Scott Barnes is going to indicate to us what he has experienced reading this application coming from Gordon's First Nations purview. So ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Scott Barnes.
Yeah. I could wing it, but I'll go with the presentation. There we go. It's a little crooked, but so am I, so it'll work fine. So this is really going to be a brief presentation on what we've gleaned so far regarding Energy East, both from the proponent's application and from feedback from the community through the community impact assessment process. There's my details there. Feel free to email me at any time. So if you don't remember my email or whatever,